Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Donna Schmid with Eyes Wide Open, and I'm here again today with Erik Roth, our shamanic astrologist, and our guest, Donna Towers, is here today. And Erik is going to be reading her astrological report. So, Erik, it's all yours.
Thank you, Donna. And the other Donna, Donna Towers. Are there certain things that you would like me to put some attention on, since we do have somewhat limited time for going over your chart for this podcast?
Not particularly. I mean, given my age, I'm more interested in the future than the past.
I see.
But other than that, I'm open to receive.
Okay. And Donna Schmid, do I have I do have the ability to share my screen now, right?
I do have the ability. I'm just going to kind of pause us for a second so I can make
Okay.
sure I get that.
Right.
Okay, okay, I can see your screen now, Erik. So
Oh,
whenever you're
good.
ready. Yeah,
That's an improvement over last time.
much.
Yes.
Okay.
So Donna Towers, so what we can do here is in this, we can focus in on what the transits are going to be for you, but I'll go over briefly, uh, go over your natal chart briefly in this podcast. And then we will look at the astrological cycles and what's happening into the future for you,
Thank you.
and seeing where the intent is for that. So you were born with a just past the full moon, just a couple of days past the full moon, so the moon would have been very, very full looking in the sky at the on the evening time or morning time that you were born there. And so the moon was in Libra, which is a all about conscious equal partnership as your what you mastered coming into this lifetime. But it certainly isn't what you need to quote work on anymore in this lifetime. So relationship, partnership, or trying to you know uh, really do the ins and outs of that in this lifetime. It's not the main purpose here for you. Sun in Pisces, that's all about being a healer and being empathic, compassionate, being of service in the world. And you have, to some degree, an abundance of Aries energy. You could see this great amount of planetary positions here, and there's including 3 asteroids, or 2 asteroids and a dwarf planet here. But Mars and Venus and Mercury were all in the sign of Aries the time you're born. So it could give you like the strength and the will and a sense of purpose in life. Um, and just this sense of, particularly in your connection to instinct and intuition, being able to trust that, being able to work with it in a stronger way in this lifetime. So it could make life more rapid fire for you over your decades here on this planet. And then your ascendant or rising sign is Capricorn, which represents your emerging identity in this lifetime. So it's what you're working on as a beginner. And what that is it Capricorn rising is about learning to be a teacher, learning to be someone who carries the knowledge and the wisdom of the world, someone who can be that solid rock and or mountain that other people can turn to for that wisdom and knowledge and support. So that's what role that plays in your life and others. Now, there's also a strong Chiron signature on your chart. So not only with your being a Pisces sun, but you've got Chiron squaring your Mars and Venus and conjuncting your ascendant. and squaring your moon. So Chiron plays, really critical role, not the only outer planet that does that, but it's one of the major planets that definitely does that in this lifetime for you. So it just tells me you've had to really do a lot of powerful self work, inner work, spiritual work, self-development, and potentially utilize those lessons, those experiences to bring up skills and qualities that you end up using in the lives of others to help them as a healer in some fashion. So that definitely shows up very, very strongly for you in this lifetime. And part of it is that you're not necessarily here to do anything specifically conventional. It doesn't mean you can't, over a certain period of time, do that for, financial security purposes and so forth. But there definitely is a lot of energy here that represents more of an unconventional or unorthodox approach to your life in this particular lifetime. So we're going to go into the transits and refer back to the natal chart as we do that. And Donna Towers, how do you feel about what I've just shared?
Well, I've done a little bit of astrology reading, so I know my rising sign, my sun sign, and my moon sign.
Aha.
I would say there's certain things about Pisces that I affiliate strongly with. A healer, I was in the healthcare system. There's a lot in Capricorn that I also affiliate. I'm not familiar with the Chiron, so I look forward to learning about that and hearing what more you have to tell me.
Excellent. Donna Schmid, any thoughts?
I had a question that popped up, but I'm actually going to save it for later, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
Okay.
That works fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, let's look at the transits. Now, this is taking your chart, which is right here, Donna Towers, and compressing it down into this inner wheel here. Not the smallest wheel, but the I guess you can call it the middle wheel, but I call it the inner wheel, the one that has the planets on it. The outer wheel is the one where the planets are today. And you definitely shared about you hadn't really heard about Chiron much. It's so I'm going to answer that one. Chiron is a planetary body that is found to be a combination of kind of an asteroid and a comet that orbits between, very large one, that orbits between Saturn and Uranus. And it has a very elliptical orbit, so some years it can spend a lot of time in one sign or another, and other years it can actually move pretty quickly, relatively speaking. What Chiron's role in astrology is the wounded healer, the centaur wounded healer. And when it factors in heavily in a person's chart, just their regular natal chart, it can it also works with transits too, and I'll get into that in a bit. But in a regular chart, it shows where our soul wounds are. It shows where not all of our vulnerabilities, but it shows like where we have a deeper level vulnerability. And it also is reflected. I often find it in people's charts where it factors in heavily in their chart where they become a healer in this world, whether it's in the Western medical professional industry, or or both, where they're later on, they become, maybe health coaches, they become, energy healers, massage therapists, maybe they become just psychotherapists. There are a wide variety, probably thousands of different ways a person can be, quote, a healer. I mean, it could just be simply, as a counselor, or it could be where you heal through, people can heal through art or through food or many other pathways to be a healer in this lifetime. So what the signature also shows is that you've had to definitely do a lot in your life, to learn what you're going to learn to help others out there in the world. So meaning really powerful, deep initiations in your life, ones that, you might have periods where, maybe you're carrying this strong wound. Maybe it's a condition or an illness or something that you've had to go through to help you become what you are today. So this, what we call that wounded healer energy, especially in combination with somebody who has Pisces in their chart. They are somebody that is gifted in this world to tune into the feelings and senses of others, and to be able to know uh, what how to approach them, bringing your heart into the space and working with them to the best of your ability so that they can receive the very best of what is needed, so that they can feel safe in an environment, that they can feel vulnerable there in the safe space. It's all in that combination that you have, that you possess, you were born with in this lifetime. You also come into this life with especially with the Chiron position here, squaring your natal moon. So this is representative of, like, from your early life, your childhood, parents, early family. That is shows where there was some kind of early childhood thing that happened, that more than just your average, like, regular vulnerabilities or childhood things that come in, but something much, much stronger and, initiating, that helped to, might say, motivate you down the road as you worked with that to find out how are you going to show up to be of service in the world and help out people, out there. So that's a role that Chiron plays in your life. And since it is conjunct your ascendant here, it factors in really, really heavily in um, how you come across as a teacher, as somebody that is dispensing wisdom and knowledge to others, as you give through your work and your know-how, your expertise. Uh, there is a bit of what we call shamanic medicine involved in that. So you are, in a way, this, symbolically, anyway, of a shamanic healer in this world, which, with combined with Pisces, can make you certainly extra sensitive to the emotions, the feelings, the energies, the psychic energies around you, and to help you work with that more strongly during your life. Some people, like, certainly you might come to this knowledge, this greater knowledge, much later in life, because of the particular aspects that you have going on there. But being a late blossomer, astrologically speaking, means that you're well seasoned in your experiences and work to get to that place, that you've done a lot of the steps you've needed to do to get to where you are today, so that you can fully blossom into the person that you are. So currently in transits, there's definitely some very significant things that are going on into the future, things that are happening right now as well. So Donna Schmid, do you still need to save your question?
Let's see. I actually had another one that came in too. But I want to save the first one to the end. The question is, does the chart show, I know it shows when someone comes in with certain traits or certain things that they're going to be working on in particular, but does the chart show if they have accomplished that or not? Because I know we have several different choices, several different ways we could go with it, but does the chart eventually show that we have accomplished that? Have completed?
That's a great question. So it's kind of mixed because that would require like a deeper level of understanding of the chart in the sense of the transits, particularly the transits. It just shows that in this case, you know, for Donna Towers, that the evolution is more likely slower, but it shows that there's some gifts initially that come in. And it depends on the various choices that we make during those decades, particularly in our adulthood. Um, so if we end up choosing something that's more, you know, say safe and secure and trying to shut down or repress our gifts in some way, then it would be a much more slower evolution of those gifts. But the transits are typically, when they come in, they're there to help us to show those gifts within us so we can trust what is there. But for a lot of us, it can be a much slower evolution. So it does show that she's a late blossomer in this life, meaning that it's not necessarily that, you know, by the time she gets 21 and she's gonna like fulfilling her emergence into being, quote, psychically aware or really tuned into others in a big way. She's going to get glimpses of that at the very minimum. I mean, no matter how much we do to try to repress our gifts in that way, yeah, I mean, they're still going to pop up every now and then. It's like trying to, you know, repress, certain like basic desires that we have as human beings. There's only so much that we can do to do that, to repress them. So what I'm saying here is that I don't, it's a mixed type of thing to when we know that we're going to be fully fulfilled, because that would get into more of that sort of the other predictive part or the predictive part of astrology, which is not something necessarily that I work with. Um, so I come in from a place of seeing where a person is, where they are now, and maybe looking at their history to see when maybe these gifts came around, and then tying it in to the planetary cycles that are happening at various times in their life and seeing where the potential evolution of that is.
Hmm.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, because I'm wondering now too. I pulled a couple cards for her, and both of them were major arcana cards. Donna, the first one was the High Priestess, which
Oh,
totally relates.
I get that all the time when I
Yeah.
do my own and anybody else do my tarot. That
Oh,
is the card.
okay. Well, definitely it shows who you are as far as that goes. But then the challenge is the Chariot card. So it's that balance. And I think Erik touched on that with kind of being, you know, 1 foot in the humanness, and then 1 foot in the spiritual realm as well too. So and it's the balancing of that, of getting that so that you can live in both worlds. How's that be? Or have a nice balance with that, if that's even possible. But that brings me to my other question that first came up, Erik, and that was, I'm curious because this is kind of happening to me, and so I'm toying with it right now. So maybe you can kind of add something to it. Maybe you can't. But given the fact that we travel, and we work in different realms, there's different aspects of ourselves. Is it possible too that this chart, even though she's having a human experience at this moment in time, but is it possible that she's also traveling and using these gifts and using what she's learning here into other realms and working it in that way? So that's the balance for her as she's balancing it. It just came across my mind as soon as you were talking about that. And I thought, wow, I wonder if that even shows up in her chart.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I do think that that is entirely possible that that's happening. She does have some, Chiron is one of the two planetary bodies that symbolize the underworld in the system of shamanic astrology.
Mhm.
And then we have, she has some very strong Neptunian and Uranian aspects too, which give her a lot of tie-ins or access to the celestial or upper realm and the heavens. So there's a lot of connections there that, for Donna Towers, you can access essentially you have a key to those other realms. And it's you can utilize that at any time. There's no at least there's nothing here that's intended to quote stop you from that. However, with the strong Saturn energy you do have here as well, it can at times you may feel blocked or be distracted a lot by in obvious ways, for obvious reasons, for the complexities of the real world. So you're like having to attend a lot and solve problems, and people come to you to be their defender, their warrior, their problem solver. And so you're having to, obviously, as Donna Schmid said, to work in both worlds, to trying to bring in the the realm beyond our current consensus reality here into the reality, and work with it in such a way where it can be of practical use to other people. I often find, particularly with the strong Uranian element in a person's chart, that along with Neptune, that they're they're going to be solving things and working through things in 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 ways that are not necessarily common. That there is a more unorthodox and unique approach, novel approach to how you do things, a more mystical and heart-centered approach as well to how you do things and how you work with things. Um, so yeah, you can access both of those realms and try to straddle these quote worlds, um, the reality and the intangible reality.
Yeah.
You have a lot of energy around that.
Yeah. I caught on the word straddle, and that with the chariot card, it just reminded me of that is she has the capability of bringing in that knowledge, that wisdom from the across the veil, and bringing it in
Yeah.
and trying to balance that so that it is comprehensible to um, the people that you're helping, or how you're saying it, how you're approaching it. But I think it's the reason it's coming through to me is because it's like it's good that this is a conscious awareness that's coming through, because this is something that you needed to hear, that you might not be fully intuitive, psychic, a healer in the physical realm. It's just that you're bringing that in and trying to balance it for those that you work with and those that you help and speak with. So I think it's more of an awareness that you are doing it, so you can not feel like you're not doing anything or not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That resonates with me because I think even when I was in the corporate world, I often got, how shall I describe it nicely? The thorny issues, were always put on my plate, because then I would look for, I used to call them creative ways to solve the issues and bring multiple, sides and views together to try and find something to move forward. So that was definitely something that was, present in my corporate life for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Good, good, good. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Thank you,
makes
Eric.
total
Thank you.
sense.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Can I ask about the wounded healer? Going back to Chiron,
mhm.
because um and I've been told this, so in terms of going to people that are psychic, or whatever, that something about wound marks on the hand or whatever, so that in past lives they say there was probably something that caused me to kind of shut down the spiritual or the knowing side, if you like. Does that tie in at all with this wounded healer Chiron?
Yeah, I would say so. Because there is a major Chiron aspect to Saturn here, and even to Neptune, and I bring that in because the idea that the intent of Chiron to come in to help you be the healer, to help you recognize and do your deeper work, at times may be, in Saturn's case, overridden by the concerns of your responsibilities, of your obligations, of having to, that certainly in Aries' case and to some degree Capricorn's case, of basically showing up and being tasked to do a bunch of other things that move you away from the other realms, so that you don't you begin to have less time for that stuff, or you have less time for that stuff, and so you can let that go. And so Chiron's role there is to show a vulnerability in your identity around the idea of being a healer. So the wounding around actually showing up to actually become that. So it's as if it's like it's both there as a signature to help you understand that you can become that healer, but at the same time there's the opposite of that, where it's like you get stuff down, it gets pushed down, so you don't evolve into that as quickly as you would like. And some of this has to do with the structure of society, and how the middle world is so very, very strong in Western culture, and it can have a tendency to repress a lot, whether we're doing anything about it or not. It just shows up in that way because it's influencing us, everywhere we look. But it also can bring in, like, where you don't want to feel that there's a part of you that doesn't want to feel that otherworldliness, that those abilities, and to help and heal others, because there is a fear. There could be a fear of like being judged, a fear of being looked at as strange or not fitting into anything, a fear of not being accepted, of not being loved, or being destitute in a way, perhaps. Particularly it could be, even goes back to even perhaps even your parents. But that shows up there too with regards to Chiron and the wounds.
Um, yeah, I would say in terms of the otherworldliness, probably not stuffed down as much as moved aside. All through, either work
Right.
and mother and grandmother and whatever. Um, on the parent side, very accepting, and my dad was religious but became spiritual later in life. And so there was lots of discussion and openness around, many different aspects of spirituality, which kind of led me down the path of being really curious about learning more and reading more and studying more.
Hmm.
And I've done that later in life once I was retired and had time to do that.
Yes. Yeah, I can understand that. That's
So I,
great
I
that,
get the late blossoming part.
yes. And yeah, that's the thing is, we, as we live our lives, there are certain priorities that overtake a lot of other things. And so, yeah, putting them aside, um, can happen a lot, because you're like, oh, well, this is coming up and this is coming up, and I don't have time for that or this. I've got to do these. I got to do these. But it's good that you had some influence on a spiritual level from your parents, and them being very accepting of that, because there's always that potential with Chiron and Neptune, that there may be potentially like a loss of that connection to spirit, especially with Saturn there, and not really knowing what you're supposed to do with it, meaning that you can be influenced by it, but like, what do I do with it all? What purpose does it serve? And here in, like, say, corporate America, or another venues. But glad that you kept up and still have been curious about it enough to where you started also studying, especially after you retired and created more space for yourself.
Yeah.
So let's look at like the cycles of what's coming up, because you just well, I mean, technically you definitely are in a Chiron cycle, and that will continue. It's actually multiple years of Chiron. It's interesting that you bring up Chiron too in this session or this podcast, because it's playing a big role in your life right now. So here's where Chiron is today. And it got to about 23.5 degrees or so before it retrograded away from that. And it didn't quite reach your natal Venus position, but it did square your natal Chiron and opposite your Neptune at the same time. So this is the beginning stages of another layer of opportunity that's gonna continue through 2025 and 2026. This is a time where you may be able to get a new kind of medicine for yourself, shamanic medicine, to help you evolve your skills, your sense of you being a teacher in this world, and actually bringing the fire energy into your life, where you make it part of your mission and purpose, especially with, you know, maybe doing it from home, and allowing that gift to come through strongly. So putting a lot of energy and attention into that. But it can also bring in, especially beginning about a year from now, anytime Chiron comes in, there can be a health thing that can show up. And so this is something that, you absolutely need to be aware of, is that, Chiron square Chiron, which is right now, beginning next June, 2025, Chiron conjunct Venus. And that's either one of those put some attention on health, and it's centered primarily with your identity at home and your identity with family, and how you've been a strong warrior in this lifetime. You've shown up, and when you need to kick butt and solve problems, you do that. You bring in your creative energies into the picture and work with it that way. But it also shows, like, okay, well, how much stamina and will do you have to work with the energies that are coming through? So if with Chiron, there can be, again, but say a health condition shows up, or something comes in, and it's going to test your stamina. It's going to test your will to come through to the other side of that. And so that's part of the sort of the Chiron initiation for you in this regard. But the silver lining here is that you learn more about your own vulnerabilities. You learn more about how maybe another layer of medicine that's going to come through over the next few years for yourself. Like, this is big. So we see, Venus, your natal Venus is right here in Aries. Chiron is coming up onto that space. If we were to look more closely, for example, in your regular chart, this is where Chiron is right now. And it's about to, next year, it'll come over your Venus, but it's currently squaring this natal Chiron position. And we'll make one more pass in the winter time next year. That part will end in March. Then you get a couple months where there won't be any major Chiron transit until we get to June, when it starts to move into conjunction with your natal Venus position. So I've also often found that for women in general, their Venus position is also represents part of their physical health. And so that's why I have some acknowledgement of that here in this podcast to share with you, just to have that greater awareness that you want to make sure you're connecting with your physical self, your energy self, and your mental health as well, to make sure that everything is going to be okay, and to see anybody you need to see if something does come up. So that's part of what Chiron brings in, um, health-wise there. Now, it isn't the only thing that's going on, and I'm going to talk about the other stuff that's taking place in your life right now. So, Jupiter isn't really like, it's connecting to one of your dwarf planets here, but it really won't have a major impact other than it's square to your Pisces, which can lead to some, expansion of your gifts around, empathy and compassion and being a healer in this world. And then that will go on until the end of February of next year. So Saturn, though, this is a really interesting thing because Saturn will currently retrograde, but it will nearly stop almost exactly. If I look at the exact degree that Saturn stations direct, I can give you a better answer here. Let's see here, November. Yeah, it's just very, very close to exact. Beginning November 15th, it stations. But that Saturn cycle that has been ongoing since March of this year, 2024, will go on through December of 2024. And like that combination of Saturn and Jupiter over your Pisces sun is a great time to like really figure out things and how you identify yourself as a healer in this world. What does that mean to be an empath, to be a healer? How do you utilize it in a practical way? What gifts may be coming through during this time? So it's a time for you to identify all of that, as this transit, this double or this Jupiter-Saturn transit combination happens. I'm saying them both in the same light because they're going to be squaring each other off and on through this year and next year. In particular, December is looking to be a really powerful situation where Saturn and Jupiter are going to be around the 12-degree mark. Let me see when that, let's see here. In December, it's supposed to be, yeah, Saturn square Jupiter on December 24th, actually Christmas Eve. I don't know why I thought it was the 25th, or somewhere else somebody wrote the 25th. But anyway, it's on Christmas Eve, and it'll be okay at the looks like the 13 to 14 degree mark. So about 1 to 2 degrees from a degree and a half from your natal sun. So there's an emphasis on Pisces for you. Pisces, again, the qualities of Pisces are, its ability to be empathic and compassionate, to be a provider of safe space, to really connect into the dream world, the spiritual realm, to be a healer, to be of service in the world. There could be some emphasis of maybe I don't know if you volunteer at all or show up and help out and be of service somewhere. That kind of combination of Saturn and Jupiter like this with Pisces can put a lot of emphasis on maybe you showing up and maybe helping out somewhere where there is need for you without any kind of egoic attachment to the results of whatever it is however it is you participate in that. So that's something to be on the lookout for. Again, Saturn will finish up in December, and certainly after I think the Saturn Jupiter square at that time will be sort of the unofficial end to that. Jupiter will still be in your life through February in the square to your sun, but that's another layer. So we talked about Chiron, that you're in this major Chiron transit right now through the next couple of years. And then you've got this Jupiter Saturn thing that's happening through December with Saturn, and then through February with Jupiter, all connected into your Pisces sun there. So it's in a really special place. Now, what's really the next level that's really coming up when we get into 2025, beyond what I've just shared about Chiron and the Saturn-Jupiter square, is your Mercury sits right here at 0 degrees Aries. Astrologically and astronomically, that is where the spring equinox point is in the northern hemisphere, meaning that that's where the sun appears in the sky, specifically when we get to that point where there's, quote, equal day, equal night, end quote. And this is going to be playing a very, very powerful role for you in 2025 into 2026. So starting really in, let me see here, might be May. No, earlier than that. Okay. So March of 2025, Neptune starts to cross into Aries at the end of March of 2025. Saturn in, is it June? No, end of May, also crosses into the sign of Aries with Neptune. And they get really, really close to the exact conjunction in June and July of 2025. So when you're looking into the future, those two planets are really coming into an alignment together. It only happens, once about every 35-ish years, 34 years into the, each and every time. So it's been a really long time since we've had Saturn and Neptune come together. It's definitely plays a big role for humanity, but for you personally, they're getting together in between that 0 and 2 degree mark of Aries, and in June and July of 2025. And then they also exactly conjunct at about 1 degree Aries in February 2026. So this is pivotal for you because I think that there is some potential awakening here within you in your mind and your mission and purpose. Potentially spiritual awakening. I think that there's something constructive too, that your mind is sort of like being remapped in some way, symbolically, metaphysically, that you may be able to take advantage of. It's not going to be clear. I mean, having Neptune there does not grant anyone real clarity. I mean, it can appear sometimes as if it were clear, but it ends up turning into an illusion at other times. So this is where you I would recommend that you're open, that your heart is open, that you continue to work in the spirit realm. And with Mercury and Aries, helping you in the long term understand where you need to put your energies, where to direct your attention toward. So that's going to be one of the major things that goes on in your life. You're going to get a little bit of a preview of that as the North Node here, you can see it at 7 degrees Aries, moves over your Mercury. The lunar nodes, or the nodes of the moon, they move backwards. And so this node coming in here over in January, it'll be exact over your natal Mercury then. So you may get some insights, beginning as early as October of this year, as it gets closer to that point. definitely in January when it's exact, all the way through April. So between October and April is that window of the North Node's transit over your Mercury. That's a big window to connect into mission and purpose. It's right there, you know, at that 0 degree mark of Aries. So you can ask yourself some fundamental questions about, you know, what is your destiny? What is your purpose in this life? Where do you turn your gaze toward, your perception, your cognition toward, your thinking toward? Fire energy, which is your Mercury Aries, it's fiery. So there's a lot there about intuitive and instinctual gifts that want to come through. And so maybe this North Node transit will help you unearth that, help you kind of sort of spark your life a bit more as that North Node transits over your natal Mercury. So that's a major transit in combination with Saturn and Neptune right here, going to be coming over next year in 2026 over your natal Mercury. So if you're looking to kind of shift your life in some way, and particularly on a spiritual level, and with all the Chiron energy that's happening to do some work as a healer in this world, with all of your gifts that you possess, you know, you're entering the next stage of evolution of this. Okay. I know I've talked for quite a bit. So I just want to take a pause here. I've covered the major things. Donna Towers or Donna Schmid, feel free to share.
Okay, Dawn, if you don't mind, just kind of
Yeah,
jump
go
in.
ahead.
When you're talking about the North Node transit, that major arcana chariot card just comes back up again, of actually beginning to really balance those together. Talking about an awakening right there. It's kind of like, oh, that's how they all fit together, like a puzzle piece. I'm looking at this more of her being right on time instead of a late blossoming because of a couple things. One, I'm looking at everything that's happening in the world right now, and the times that you're talking about, it corresponds with things that I'm getting, channeling through of things that are kind of coming up from now until December, of course, past that, but really significant in that time frame. And so it makes a lot of sense to me that she is beginning to really open up to this during that period of time. So I think what I'm hearing is that this lifetime, the majority of her lifetime, has been spent preparing for this. So she has learned, especially going through the corporate world in the realm of health and healer and teacher, she has accumulated all of these ways in which to share that.
Yes.
And when I think about that, I always think about my speaker training, as they always say, when you're doing your speech, write it in such a way that a sixth grader can understand it instead of being too that way everybody can understand it. And so I see her being able to do that in such a way that no matter who sits in front of her, if they have a PhD or if they're just never been to college, they'll still be able to understand. She's got that ability built in with her. And I'm hearing shaman and medicine woman. So I don't know if that's past life kind of things filtering in, and that's kind of the basis of who she is. And she's springboarding from that. But what's coming in is now that opportunity, that time period where she can be that spiritual aspect of herself using all the wisdom that she has gained in this particular lifetime of how to express that and how to share that with others, so that she could be of service. And then the other thing that came in, and I don't know, John, if you want to toy with this or think about it, but channeling has definitely kind of come in because you have that ability of tapping in to the spiritual realm. And I don't mean that you have to, do trans channeling and give up your body, for some, entity or whatever to come in and chat, because I think those days really are fading fast, because we're all awakening and learning how we can tap into the spiritual side and bring that in a casual conversation. So, but it's the conscious awareness that they keep stressing to me, that you really will do well if you're consciously aware and paying attention, because it might come in very subtly. And so you want to be able to be aware of it so that you can begin the process of utilizing this. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So discussing that point first, I think that in my mind and my heart, so both, I know that a lot of what I have done, sort of career wise, family wise, caretaking for parents and all that kind of stuff has moved me towards a certain point. What that point is, I'm still searching for. So but I'm not discouraged by it. I just, thanks to your counsel, Donna S, am remaining open and learning from the wonderful group that you host and others, knowing that at some point it will all make sense to me. And I guess there's a little bit of when, only because I'm in my 70s, but I do have strong maternal history that takes us into our 90s, so I'm not short on time. So that does make sense. I have a couple of questions. So back to the health perspective, health condition, is there anything more that I should know? I mean, I come out of the health world, so I'm pretty conscious of health, but is there anything else that I should be aware of that? You gave some dates, which I wrote down, but
Yeah. Can I jump in a little bit, Eric,
yeah,
before you go? One thing that was shared with me was the fact that if you are not in a being conscious with all of this, what happens is that energy that's coming in is going to just go stagnant, and that's can potentially hit health wise on a physical, if you're
okay.
just stagnant. And that's what I picked up from that. And that's just one branch of the tree, if you'd like. So I don't know if Eric has some more branches he'd like to share.
Well, yeah, thank you. So some of the issues here have to do with, Donna Towers, of you potentially like being the one that's the responsible one for others. The like, I'm going to rescue, I'm going to take care of this, or give here and give there. It sometimes the Chiron relates to the burden that we bear or how much we give, and that we are maybe giving too much. So there could be an excess with regards particularly to the home and family arena. And that's where if something comes in or comes up around health, that's a big one. That's I think is sort of the quote elephant in the room, astrologically speaking, that I see here. And but it can relate to too is that even if we get that it could be also an initiation for us for some additional medicine that we learn, shamanic medicine. I mean, Donna Schmid, you said that she had sort of this shaman energy in her. Well, she was born, Donna Towers, you were born with a Pluto North-South node conjunction, which relates to your sort of past lives and origin story, excuse me, origin story that, means that there was some powerful element. It sits also in the 8th house, by the way. So there's really a lot of death, rebirth themes surrounding your past lives, surrounding to some degree and potentially even the early life. But there's gifts there. There's gifts around from potentially the trauma of a past life into this life that you're working with energetically. Like you're working with the energy structures that came from that point, but you're here to transform that. You're here to work with it in a different way. It doesn't need to maintain or be the same structure. So, meaning that you also have the power within yourself to affect healing on you as well. And so I would recommend during these Chiron transits to create some space for yourself, create some time for yourself, and not just, you know, only purely committed to others. Even though you have, like, in your chart, it's really the for the most part, it's about others, and it could at times like really dominate your life, which it's natural for that to happen. But with anytime when Chiron comes in, we also, it gives us an opportunity, permission to care for ourselves, to put some time and energy and space into that, and go, okay, and perhaps money too, in order for us to be healthy. So that's my response to that.
Okay, that helps in terms of perspective. And creating space for yourself is um, a multitude of ways, but it's definitely something that I've started to put more focus on, and started to do more that brings me joy, like my art and things like that, that take me out
Mhm.
of that space of caretaking, and all the other duties that go on with all sorts of things in terms of roles as um, parent, grandparent,
Mhm.
spouse, etc. So that's good. And then the other question, in terms of sort of spiritual shift or quest, I would say this is something that I've focused on more since I've retired, so in the last several years. But I'm sort of, how do I say this? I mean, I'm learning, I'm reading, I'm taking courses. I'm sort of, it's almost like my art. I've called myself mixed media because I, try one thing and take things from that, try another thing, take things from that. But is there anything more directive or more that you can offer that would sort of point me in a direction, or am I doing the right thing now by kind of sampling and learning?
Oh, yeah. At this time, to some degree, sampling and learning is a really good approach. Um, with Saturn current, I would say this is really interesting, because I would say when we get to that period of June or late May of 2025, when Saturn comes over your Mercury and Neptune's in that zone too, that may give you the sort of greater clarity. Now, Neptune, I'm not saying Neptune's going to do that. Neptune is part of the matrix, but it's not by itself. In fact, Neptune would be the opposite usually. But Saturn, on the other hand, is saying, okay, let's try to bring that into matter. Let's try to bring that into purpose and understanding. And I think when we get to that place, especially the evolution of the Chiron cycles, that would be a time period where you might be able to start to choose a couple of different directions. My other thought on that is that because your natal midheaven here is in Scorpio, which the midheaven in astrology represents our calling in life, our vocation, our expression out into the world. So Scorpio expression is following our passions, following the area that really can run deep and not have a bottom to it, that we can go as deep as we ever want to go into it. So meaning that the kind of work that would fit you, or not necessarily needing to be paid to do it, but the kind of a calling would be able to entertain the deeper levels, so that it wouldn't just be just one job, but anything that you're drawn to and that you might have a passion toward, that kind of gets you turned on in life, it gets the energy going, gets the vibe running, then that's the area you need to get into. And it may be more than just one area. And that's like another clue as to saying you're on the right track. You're on the right track with your purpose and mission, and it will, like, there could be a coinciding with the Saturn Neptune conjunction period that begins to happen at the end of spring of next year. and will run through part of 2026 as well, the first few months of 2026. So that's my response there.
Okay, that's helpful. So the learn and sample and, take what resonates with me,
Yes.
and to continue to do that. And it might coalesce then around the timeframes that you're talking about to become a little bit more solid in terms of which direction I might explore, or two directions. I'm not limiting it to one, but
Right.
might point me in the right directions.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend like too many directions for your, if you had Gemini midheaven or something like that, or some Gemini in your chart, for example, then I could recommend multitude of directions. But with your chart, I recommend just a couple of different things at most. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. This is a really good reading. I love your chart, Donna. It was very expressive. And because I do know you on another level, it does speak volumes of who you are and what you are capable of. So kudos,
Thank you.
Erik. Nice
Yeah.
job.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed it. Yeah. very
Well,
good.
and I've learned so much, and now I've got to, if you're recording this, I'm sure I get to see it, but I see all those squares and colored lines. And so that's another way I'm going to sample. I'm going to go and learn more about all of which
Yeah.
you've shown me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind too that Erik does go in greater depth if you ever want to go and actually schedule a full appointment with him. He'll go in depth with that, which is
Okay.
really good. So please keep that in mind. And
I
and
definitely will.
yeah, I will put his information down below in the video. So even people that are watching, if they're interested in working with you, Erik, or actually even both of us doing both. I don't know what the hell I do. What do I do? channel along with Erik's astrological reports. It works great. I'm really enjoying this. So yeah, then that way they can let us know too. Be fun. But thank you very much for being our guest today. We appreciate it. And I'm sure I speak for Erik on that part as well too. Thank you.
Thank you both for the insights, and look forward to seeing the video.
Okay, everyone.
Yeah.
Please,
Grateful for the opportunity and grateful to meet you at Donna Towers, and to be here with all of you and to be part of the podcast. So thank you.
you too.
Great.
All right,
Thank you.
everyone. Take care. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.